Imagine standing at the crossroads of history, where the whispers of ancient scholars echo through time, drawing you into the heart of a transformative text. The Septuagint, an ancient Greek version of the Hebrew Scriptures, is not just a translation. It's a catalyst that shaped entire civilizations and continues to influence billions today. But what if I told you that within its pages lies the key to understanding profound spiritual truths? Let's dive into how this remarkable text can illuminate your faith journey. And if you ever felt lost or unsure, remember, Jesus will bless you and walk with you every step of the way. We'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments where you're from or how Jesus has performed miracles in your life. Don't forget to subscribe so you can be part of our growing community of believers, together exploring faith and transformation. The story of the Septuagint's creation unravels amid the vibrant tapestry of Hellenistic civilization, where cultural influences painted a complex mosaic of ideas and traditions. Its origins are nestled within the buzzing intellectual milieu of Alexandria, a city renowned as a cradle of learning and multicultural exchange under the expansive influence of the Ptolemaic dynasty. This era was marked by a remarkable confluence of Greek and Eastern thought, driven by an ambitious exchange of knowledge and the city's strategic geopolitical importance. It is within this context that the translation, known as the Septuagint, emerged with the goal to make accessible the Hebrew Scriptures to a Jewish community that had grown distant from its linguistic roots, speaking primarily Greek due to the widespread Hellenization following Alexander the Great's conquests. In Alexandria, the Ptolemaic rulers harbored a grand vision of transforming their capital into an unrivaled repository of wisdom. The establishment of the Great Library was a testament to their earnest pursuit of this ambition, housing scrolls and knowledge from every corner of the known world. Against this enlightened backdrop, the translation of the Hebrew text into Greek was both a natural evolution and a strategic endeavor, aimed at ensuring the preservation and dissemination of Jewish religious thought in a rapidly Hellenizing world. This momentous task was seen as essential for the thriving Jewish diaspora who, while retaining their faith, had largely adopted Greek language and customs. The translation was not merely a textual conversion, but a profound cultural mediation bridging not only languages but faiths and philosophies. We delve into the tale of Aristes, a narrative both mystical and foundational to understanding the Septuagint's perceived sanctity. According to the so-called Letter of Aristes, which emerges from the scattered annals of history more as legend than documented fact, a committee of 72 scholars, 6 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, was convened to undertake the translation project. King Ptolemy II Philadelphus, upon the urging of his librarian Demetrius of Phaleron, expressed an esteemed desire to include the Jewish laws in his celebrated library, thus catalyzing this monumental scholarly collaboration. Embraced by many later writers, this account transforms into a cornerstone of legitimacy for the Septuagint, asserting that the scholars worked independently, yet miraculously produced identical translations. This narrative, though likely embellished, served a poignant purpose. It enshrined the translated work with an aura of divine sanction and authority. It was as though the translation was not merely an interpretive act undertaken for practical necessity, but was woven through divine intervention, thus preserving its authenticity across languages. While the story of Aristes is enshrouded with the mystique of myth, its telling speaks volumes about the reverence in which the Septuagint was initially held, transcending its role as a mere scholarly tool. It was, in essence, viewed as an inspired work, occupying a revered space in the spiritual lives of Alexandrian Jews and eventually extending its influence into the nascent Christian communities reliant upon its texts. This convergence of culture and scripture fundamentally reflected the complex yet dynamic exchange of ideas that defined the Hellenistic world. The very act of translating sacred Hebrew text into the refined idiom of Greek wasn't free of challenges. It was, nevertheless, a deliberate venture into the realm of theological reinterpretation. The eventual result of this laborious task was a translation that bridged not just linguistic gaps, but also interfaced the realms of Jewish tradition with Greek intellectualism. The production of the Septuagint also assumes broader theological repercussions as it became a foundational text for early Christians who predominantly spoke Greek, thus playing a crucial role in the spread of Christian teachings. Yet, its implications transcend religious boundaries, impacting secular thought and shaping perceptions of myth, narrative, and divine law. In every sense, the creation of the Septuagint was an embodiment of the synthesis of faith and culture, its inception pointing to the immense potential of scholarly labor and linguistic dexterity in bridging worlds. In the grand labyrinth of religious textbooks, the Septuagint occupies a unique, often contentious, position. As a text born from necessity, nurtured by scholarship, yet exalted to divine status by faith and tradition. As we immerse in the narrative of its genesis, we uncover not just the tale of a translation, but a deep, intertwined saga of faith persevering through language, time, and culture. Thus, the Septuagint remains, in a sense, as much a creation of human endeavor as it is a celebration of divine intervention in the unfolding saga of spiritual history. The linguistic challenges in translating the Hebrew scriptures into Greek, a monumental task undertaken to bridge cultural divides, accounted for much more than simple language conversion. They operated on a profound theological plane. The Septuagint, as it came to be known, embarked on this journey with intentional lexical choices that unwittingly redefined spirituality for successive generations. Translators were faced with the gargantuan responsibility of converting Hebrew concepts, imbued with mysticism and centuries-old traditions, into Greek, a language that not only brought its own set of synonyms, but also its unique cultural interpretations. Consider the term nefs, a Hebrew word enveloped in layers of meaning ranging from breath and life to soul and being. The Greek equivalent chosen was psyche, a term with its own nuanced intricacies, representing the seat of human thoughts and emotions. This translation shifted the understanding of personal identity and spiritual consciousness on a subtler gradient than initially apparent. When seen through the lens of later Christian theology, where the psyche became central to human individuality and its communion with the divine, the theological implications multiply. Psyche carves out a more psychological framework that deviates from the holistic existential perspective originally intended by nefs, which depicted life as an inseparable totality under God's covenant. Another translation instance of substantial theological weight is the Hebrew Allah, traditionally passed into Greek as anabeno, denoting movement or ascension, rather than a simple raising or lifting. This choice seemed coherent linguistically, but the ancient Hebrew context inherently linked the term with religious elevation, a spiritual ascendancy significant in temple worship and encounters with the divine. Translating it into a broader Greek context inadvertently detached it from its grounded ritualistic resonance, streamlining divine metaphors into a secular philosophical framework that marked a shift for Jewish readers and offered new interpretations for burgeoning Christian thought. A particular mention is the translation of Alma, often rendered in modern contexts as young woman, into the Greek parthenos, meaning virgin. This lexical decision carries pronounced theological implications, especially within the confines of Christian doctrine. The difference emphasizes the virgin birth, a cornerstone of Christian theology, providing a narrative pivot from Judaic prophecy into early Christological affirmations that Jesus of Nazareth embodied this particular prophesied birth. This adaptation tuned the resonance of Old Testament text aligning with Christian evangelistic narratives. The translator's selection reverberates in the theological continuum, where spiritual reevaluations beckon responses beyond lexical reassessment. The transmission of doctrines into Greek hermeneutical thought invited philosophical interchanges between Hebraic and Hellenistic traditions, often positioning them at odds, yet catalyzing religious evolution. Hence, the Septuagint not only served as a bridge, but became an expedient of theological metamorphosis, a platform where Judaic prophecy and Hellenistic interpretation wrestled in perpetual